Welcome to Prayer and Pose Yoga. Put on some music that you like to practice to, and then we're going to come onto our backs for 3-part breathing. Wiggle yourself out to a comfortable position, and then place one hand on the belly, the other hand on your chest, because we want to feel both the belly and the chest moving with this breath. As we inhale deeply through the nose, feeling the belly fill, followed by the bottom of the rib cage, then the top of the rib cage. Then we're going to feel that empty on our exhale, emptying out from the top of the rib cage, bottom of the rib cage, into the belly. Every breath, we think about these 3 parts: the belly, the bottom of the rib cage, and then the top of the rib cage, emptying and filling like we can imagine a big refreshing pitcher of water. And we're going to continue to breathe like this as I go into our meditation on the Lord's Prayer. The Lord's Prayer begins, "Our Father who art in heaven." There's a lot of contrast in that statement alone. A holy God of heaven, deserving of our reverence, worthy of awe, the all-knowing, ever-present creator of heaven and earth, who Jesus says we should address as our Father. And not just this distant Father, a general Father of all mankind, but as our Father in heaven, who knows our need before we ask it. The prayer that begins with "Our Father" is written to his own, the poor in spirit, the mourners, the meek, merciful, and pure in heart, peacemakers who allow all manner of evil set against them for the Son of Man's sake. The Lord's Prayer brings the interests of God to our own attention, with "Thy kingdom come and thy will be done." And in turn, then God follows up as our provider, giving us both our daily bread and delivering us from evil. Maybe you've wondered why a God who knows everything before we pray for it would need us to ask him for things. It's about more than that. I have a daughter who's getting married in a couple of weeks, and it's very exciting. But I don't just want a list from her. I know she's gonna need a reception hall. I know she's gonna need a place for the wedding. I know that she's gonna need a dress. But I don't wanna just know what she needs. I wanna hear about the dress that she's been dreaming about. I want to know if it's gonna be white or ivory, if she wants a long train or a short train, what she wants there to be for accessories, beading. Does she want a lot of bling, or does she want something natural and satiny? I want to be there to see her try it on and to see that look on her face when it clicks and she says, "This is the one," because I want to know her. And it's the same thing that when God asks us to pray, he's not asking us because he needs us to inform him. He asks us to pray, to draw near to him, to walk and to talk with him, opening our every situation to him in the assurance that seeking him leads to finding him, because he loves us as a father, as our Father. There was a movie that was released in 2000 called Meet the Parents. Greg is visiting his girlfriend's parents in hopes of proposing, and he desperately wants to impress the family, only to fail time and time again. At dinner, he's asked to say grace, and he tries very hard to sound spiritual, drawing out long religious phrases at what becomes just another failed attempt at being genuine. Nobody fell for Greg's empty flourishes, and God doesn't fall for ours either. He doesn't ask us to speak eloquently or to say all the right religious words. God asks us to pull away alone in silence with him, to speak from our heart, to be amazed by him while talking to him in a personal way, like to a parent, to pray for justice, his will, to share our daily needs for food and that our bills would be paid, for the grace to be forgiven and the strength to forgive others. Or, as Jesus puts it, "Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil." Let's pray like that. And then let's draw those knees in towards the chest, rocking it out back and forth, giving a little massage to the back. And let's take those ankles, give a twist to the feet, Switching directions, getting all the snap, crackles, and pops out. Then we're gonna roll over onto all fours for some cat-cow as we begin to warm the spine. Hands are directly underneath of the shoulders, knees underneath of the hips. Let's inhale, drawing the heart forward, allowing that belly to drop, but without relaxing it. Imagine the cow still has control of its udders here. Tailbone nice and high. Then we reverse that, exhaling into cat as we draw that spine nice and high. Inhaling cow, exhaling cat. One breath, one movement. Really noticing the space that's being created in the spine. And even though we're not in that time that in yoga we call pranayama, which is our breath work at the beginning, we still want to be focused on that breath. We still want to think about every inhale, every exhale. We want to draw that breath in through the nose, breathing deeply. Imagining filling all the way up the torso. And now we can take ourselves back into child's pose. Coming into our first time of prayer, let's come into a time of adoration, praising God maybe that He wants to be our Father, that He wants to be in relationship with us, that He's that kind of God. And now let's take our hands over to the right, drawing that left foot up, rising, and then we can open up to the wide edge of our mat here, slowly rolling the back up. And we're going to inhale those arms up overhead, getting some lateral flexion as we continue to warm the spine. Inhaling, reaching over that right shoulder, and then releasing back down. Inhaling, reaching over the left shoulder, allowing that to come back down. Inhaling up, exhaling, we release. We're not coming over to the side of the room yet. We're being gentle to that spine because we're just warming up. Now we can come into some moonflowers. Let's take those hands out. Let's give a little twist to the wrist, just like we did with those ankles and feet. And then reach towards the corners of the room. Then draw those elbows in towards the waist. Moonflowers here, we're warming the shoulders. And by that movement of the lower body, we're also warming the hip flexors a little bit here. We can move into sunflowers, creating a big circle here, palms forward. We're keeping the head above the heart, keeping the heart above the hips. Still warming the shoulders. And now let's come halfway down. We don't have to bend here. And let's rotate right, come back to neutral. Rotate left as we continue to warm the spine here, back to neutral. Our knees have a nice little bend here, a micro bend. No locking out the knees. Coming back center. Let's slide those hands down the legs. Let's come into a little bit more rotation, but this time we're gonna windmill those arms, taking the right arm overhead, taking it down to the mat, taking our left arm overhead, drawing that down to the mat. A little more rotation, but you may find that this is going to hit the spine in a little bit different place. And then we can go ahead and walk the hands up the legs here. We're going to circle up, coming down to a squat, and then coming over to the front of the mat, moving into lunge as we start some moon salutations, taking our hands down to the mat, shifting back to pyramid, lifting that rear leg, opening up to the side for a standing half moon, taking our hands back to the mat, lifting back into lunge, and coming to a prayer squat center. Let's come to the other side, lunge, taking our hands down, coming into pyramid, pushing those hips back, straightening the legs, but soft knees, taking our right hand down, lifting that left leg behind us, balancing half moon. Then we can come back to the mat, lifting once more into lunge, coming center, prayer squat, coming back to lunge, towards the front of the mat, dropping our hands down to pyramid, lifting that rear leg, opening up to the side of the mat, dropping everything back down, and then lifting into lunge once more, coming back to prayer squat, other side, back to the lunge, pyramid, hands come down, feet are like on railroad tracks as we push the hips back, opening up to standing half moon, and back to lunge. Arms overhead, prayer squat. Let's take those hands up, coming back into a forward fold at the front of our mat. Let's arrange those feet to be right underneath of the hips. Let the head hang down. Let's do a variation of our forward fold today. Let's take the right hand, finding the left leg, left hand, finding the right leg, and then just hang here. This is referred to as hanging knot. Soft knees, even a bend here. We don't want to feel any tension in the low back, and by adjusting those knees, we should be able to avoid it. Deep breaths. And now we're just going to kind of swing and switch. Switching which arm is on top here. Breathing. And we can take our hands to the mat. Let's take that left foot, drawing it back, turning it to about a 45-degree angle. We've got a good bend in our left leg here, coming into warrior two. We've got our gaze over that middle finger. The shoulders are down away from the ears. Our knee is pointed towards the second toe. If this bend in the knee bothers your knee at all, you can back off a little bit. That's okay. We never want to work from a place of pain. We want to feel some strength in the legs, equal pressure between the right leg and between the left leg. Breathing. Really reaching from wall to wall, trying to think about getting those fingertips of the right as far away from the fingertips of the left as we can. Then let's take that right hand, flipping it up, leaning in, keeping our strong warrior stance, and lifting into exalted warrior. We want to feel this down the side of the spine, thinking about that torso being along the long edge of the mat. If it was this direction, we're not quite going to feel that opening down the side of the spine that we want to feel, but when we turn to the side and reach diagonally, that's when we get what we're looking for there. Breathing. This is just the kind of stretch that if you're sitting at a desk during the day might feel really good if you're starting to feel, like you need to stretch. And now let's come into side angle, keeping that strong warrior stance, leaning that right arm on the leg, drawing our left arm overhead, making this nice, long, beautiful line from the fingertips of the left down to the edge of the foot. We can take our gaze high, breathing. And now we're going to take that left arm, circling it down, placing it right next to that foot. We're going to turn our rear foot, lifting the heel into lunge, and then draw that left arm overhead into a nice twisted lunge here. We can come into a time for our prayer of confession here, searching our hearts, but knowing with confidence that when we bring things to God, He forgives them completely. We shed light on them. He asks us to walk in the light, which is another way of saying walking in truth. And let's take that hand down, pushing back with that left foot. Let's come into down dog. We can volley back and forth, alternating, pressing the heels towards the mat here. Then let's take both knees in, inhaling, and then exhaling, pressing the heels towards the mat. Inhale, bend the knee, exhale, press the heels towards the mat. Make sure we've got a nice solid stance here with that left foot. We're going to lift the right foot, putting a bend into that leg, and then opening it up so that we feel a nice stretch in that hip flexor. Breathing.
Fingers spread wide, creating an L with the thumb and the first finger. Openness in that hip flexor. And we can drop that leg down. Lifting the left, same thing, putting a bend in the knee, and then opening up, getting that nice hip flexor stretch. Breathing, head hanging between the biceps. Fingers spread nice and wide, lengthening the back, lengthening the arms. Breathing. And we can draw that leg back down towards the mat, pushing back to that standard down dog, and then stepping up with that right foot, getting a good bend in that knee, dropping our left to about a 45-degree angle, and extending our arms out into warrior two on the other side. Shoulders down, away from the ears. Breathing, taking our gaze over that middle finger. Our knee is pointed towards that second toe. And we want to be sure that we don't have such a big bend in the knee that we don't cross over those toes. We can lift that hand, leaning in, coming into that exalted warrior gaze high, feeling that stretch down the side of the body with some lateral flexion. Strength of the legs, reaching and stretching of the upper body. One of my favorite poses, it just feels so good to get that lateral flexion. Are we leaning into the edges of either foot, or are we equally applying pressure in through the floor of all four corners of both feet? Let's come into side angle, keeping that nice warrior stance, resting our right arm, coming overhead with the left, lengthening here, reaching. And we can drop that left hand to be next to that right leg, turning our rear leg, lifting the heel, taking our right arm, that's the right arm, up overhead. Gaze follows, rotated lunge. Really reaching. We're not just putting the arm here, lifting the arm here. We are reaching overhead, creating as much length and distance between the fingertips of the right and the fingertips of the left as we can. And we can take that hand back down towards the mat, shifting back once more, down dog. Let's come into a three-legged down dog, lifting that right leg, and then move into three-legged plank. So we're gonna flow here a little bit, keeping the core strong and activated as we drive the knee towards the center of the chest, and then extend it up in that three-legged down dog. Let's switch to the other side. Drawing up with the left. Knee drive in. Three-legged down dog. Three-legged plank. Flowing. Core engaged. And we can drop that back down. Shifting into down dog. Now let's just walk those feet forward. Inhaling up, hands meet, coming to heart center. Let's take some time here in mountain for a prayer of supplication. You may want to keep your hands at heart center. You might want to drop them down. Supplication is just praying for those requests that are on our heart. Maybe you know someone who just looks a little weary today. Maybe you don't even know what's wrong. Pray for them. Maybe you're weary today. Pray that you would feel God's presence, that you would lift that.
Now we're gonna start to stabilize on that left foot, moving into tree. Let's make sure everything feels nice and open here. Let's take our left hand, drawing that left shoulder back, lifting our right leg either to be at the floor if we need a little extra balance of the toe, or just under the knee, right? Not right on the knee. Then we're gonna take our right hand and just gently press that open. So we've got the left opening up our shoulder, the right opening up at that hip, and then let's do what feels really nice in our tree. Maybe it feels good to take our hands to heart center. This is a great place to put the hands if we're pregnant today. If you're not pregnant, you can draw those arms overhead. Another option for all of us is to open up into leaves. Breathing and balancing, finding a focal point. If we fall out of the pose, we just get back in, no big deal. Finding that openness, thinking about drawing that knee backward. Not letting our shoulders hunch at all. Nice open tree, flourishing. And we can step that out. Stabilizing on the right foot. Taking up the left, either to the floor if we'd like that toe to give us just a little extra balance, or drawing it under the knee. Taking that left hand, opening up the knee. Right hand opening the shoulder. Choosing either to come to heart center, overhead, or opening, release, breathing. Imagining strong roots shooting through the ground as we create that strong foundation. If you've watched a tree in a storm, it is really an amazing thing to see how strong the wind can be and how it can blow that tree all over the place. And yet so often, once in a while it rips it out, but for the most part, those trees stay because they have these long, solid roots. Imagine that you have these long, solid roots too, rooted into the ground, crown of the head lifted, breathing. And we can step that out. Let's inhale up, exhaling forward fold. We're gonna come all the way down to the belly. Drawing the hands to the sides and lifting into locust. Now let's be sure not to have an unnatural curve of the neck. If I draw my head up here, that's a lot of hyperextension to the neck. So let's think about creating a nice long curve from the top of the head to the tailbone, and then engaging those hamstrings and even the calves as we lift. If this causes any lower body pain for you, just lower the lower body and lift from the upper body. Really important also here that we keep those arms close to the body. Our triceps at the back of the arm are engaged when we've got these hands lifted and close. Bring them out here. You'll notice there's really not that much engagement there. So let's work those a little bit. Breathing, thinking also about how constantly when we're in this pose, gravity is probably pulling us down, pulling us down, pulling us down. It's real small to where you might not even be noticing, but if you try to suddenly lift, you'd be like, oh wow, I can lift a lot more. That's because we've been falling. So every once in a while, give yourself another lift. And we can ease back out of this. Let's shift back into child's pose. Extending those arms in front of us, head hanging down. You're welcome to widen the knees if you'd like. Finding ease. And then let's come forward into plank. Hands underneath of the shoulders, soft elbows. Taking the option if we'd like to come down to the knees. Strengthening our core. Fighting gravity once again, it's trying to pull that whole body down. The core is working really hard here to keep it up. Holding the movement, never holding the breath. And now we're just gonna open up to the side for a side plank. Once again, we have the option to modify by bringing down a knee. breathing. I like to crisscross the legs, but you can also stack them. And let's come back to plank. Rotating to side plank once more, but this time on the other side. Lifting out of that foundational arm, reaching, taking our option if we'd like. That kneeling side plank. If we are, make sure that we're not pushing back, but that we've got a nice open hip here. You may find that it's better to put a block here if you're in the modified side plank. And that's good. Let's ease back once more to child's pose. And let's give those abdominals a stretch. We'll come back to our belly. Coming into Sphinx, elbows underneath of the shoulders. Shoulders up out of the ears by lifting the heart. Hands spread nice and wide. Kneecaps at the mat, telling us that we're not rotating back here, but that we've got good alignment here. And maybe we're not feeling an ab stretch here. That's okay. We can push deeper into this. Coming into seal. So your choice, Sphinx, lifting, or seal, lifting a little bit deeper. Breathing. Deeply breathing. Big inhale, big exhale. As our mind wanders in our practice, which can happen especially as we start to hold poses a little bit longer, those are the times we just return our attention to our breath. And let's ease this back down. Coming back into child's pose to reset the back after that extension. And then we're going to bring our legs in front of us. Heels down to the mat, bent leg. Nice straight spine. And then let's ease back until we find our place where all of a sudden the abdominals are kicking in. And breathing, just a little more abdominal work. Making sure that our shoulders aren't hunched up by the ears. Making sure the core feels strong. Trying not to round the back at all. Trying to be nice and straight from the shoulders down to the tailbone. If this is difficult, we can always take our hands and give ourselves a little extra support here too, your choice. Breathing. And let's release this. We can either grab a strap for legs up the wall or we can move over to a wall. I'm going to demonstrate today from a wall, so I'll be moving to my wall here. Let's come back as we're in legs up the wall to that time of breathing. I'd like us to focus on our breath through our whole practice, but there's a lot to think about in yoga, isn't there? So this is a time where we can really return to that 3-part breath as we kick those legs up the wall. Good to do legs up the wall 10 minutes a day. We won't be there that long, but I want us to be here long enough that we can just think a little bit more about the Lord's Prayer. It's an interesting prayer because we never pray it alone. It's a family prayer because when these words are brought to heaven, you can bet that there are voices from all around the world praying the same prayer at the same time. When we come down the stairs of my home to the gym where we do the live classes, you see a verse on the wall that says, "Be anxious for nothing, but pray about everything." It's found in the book of Philippians in the Bible. There are these times of crisis that we lift our voices in urgency, maybe just a simple prayer of help. But then there's also these other prayers. When we wake up and grab our Bible for some quiet time, or maybe right before a meal. I was personally challenged to pray the Lord's Prayer daily, not in the crisis times, but in those more routine times, such as meals or my quiet time. And I can tell you, it has changed me. Because when I pray the Lord's Prayer, I'm praying out His command to seek first His kingdom. And in studying this passage, it came to my attention that one of my favorite verses, which is, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you," is actually in the same chapter of Matthew. It's all part of the same teaching. When we view the passage as a whole, we also see instructions on how to pray. Like, don't do it for attention, don't babble on with many words as if it's like a spell or an incantation. And yeah, it's biblical to say that this is a prayer that we can repeat not only as a suggested structure, but word for word. In fact, the telling of this passage when Jesus is telling his disciples how to pray in the book of Luke has Jesus phrasing it like this: when you pray, say this. So I'd like to encourage us to do that, to pray the Lord's Prayer over the next few weeks every day, as many times or as few times as you'd like, but every day. Maybe in different versions of the Bible, maybe in your own words, maybe expanding on certain sections, but the Lord's Prayer every day. This series is going to run 7 weeks, or at least 7 sessions. I may load more than 1 session per week. We will see. But during that time, let's really take time during every day to pray this out. And now we can come out of Legs Up the Wall, returning to our mat. Let's come back to our back. Once again, rocking that out. We've got a bent knee here. Let's take both knees over to the side of the mat, stacking hip on hip, knee on knee, ankle on ankle. And we're going to take the opposite arm, opening up, allowing our gaze to follow, squaring those shoulders towards the mat in this nice twist. Breathing. And then we can take that hand back, helping us ease both knees into the chest once more. And rolling to the other side once again, hip on hip, knee on knee, ankle on ankle, extending that opposite arm out, squaring the shoulders towards the mat, allowing our gaze to follow those fingertips. Breathing and letting go. And now we can draw those knees back towards the chest. We're going to move into dead bug, which means that we're going to open up those legs now, drawing the thighs towards the mat, taking our heels up over the knees. And we've got a choice here with the hands. I know this is kind of an awkward one, but you're probably alone in your living room. You're fine. Can't be as embarrassing as being me right now, right? Take those hands down, drawing that thighs down towards the floor so that we feel a nice stretch. Another option here is to take our hands towards the insides of the feet and drawing them down towards the floor. We do want a flexed foot. See if we can draw that ankle over the knee. Breathing, relaxing the shoulders. And then we can choose to either stay here or take 2 fingers to the big toe, extending our legs to be straight, and a supine happy baby, getting that really good stretch to the inner thighs. Once again, we don't have to have the hands at the toes. We could take the hands to the legs. And by placing the hands on the inside of the legs, it's going to add a little extra weight, pulling us down towards gravity. So just be careful not to overstretch here. And then we can take those hands, bringing those legs back together, knees to chest. And let's settle into our final relaxation, finding a comfortable position. For me, it's taking those ankles towards the corners of the mat. Maybe you'd like to put a pillow underneath of your knees. Let's take our last purposeful inhale and exhale of today, and then just let our breath become easy and natural, nothing forced. Noticing the temperature of the room and accepting it, how the air feels against the skin, any noises of the room and accepting those. Noticing our breath. the shoulders to relax fully, the neck, the teeth feeling loose, softening our cheekbones, the whole top of the head. Allowing the right arm to feel heavy and the left arm to feel heavy. Any extra tension, just easing out those fingertips. Noticing the front of the heart, the back of the heart. Releasing anything from the heart that we don't want to hold, any bitterness, unkindness, anything that keeps us from wanting to forgive completely. Just release it. Ask God to fill you with the fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, long-suffering, patience, kindness. Who doesn't want to be around somebody like that? When we allow the Spirit to guide us, that's the kind of person He's trying to make us. And if that's the kind of people that we are, aren't we going to be a better friend, spouse, coworker, parent? Let God help you with your day. Let those hips sink, the legs feeling heavy, taking attention to the top of the feet, bottom of the right foot, bottom of the left foot. Giving ourselves this time of stillness. We are called to it time after time after time, and yet we fight it. As I prepared these lessons, God kept bringing me back to one thing. I felt like He was saying, don't talk about my prayer, and don't teach about my prayer, and don't learn anything about my prayer without spending time doing it. So, here in these final moments on the mat, I just want to lead us in the Lord's Prayer. Pray it in your heart. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Hallowed and respected in our home, our village, our world, right here, right now, on our mat. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we have also forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. In Jesus' name, amen. Now we can draw those knees in towards the chest, rocking that out. Maybe it feels good to reach overhead like we're waking up in the morning. And we can come to a seated position.